Raja, yeah. So as I was saying, depends on the application. Our language is very popular in biological labs because it's very good to analyze biological data, genetic data, stuff like that. For some specific tasks, it's very good. Economic data also it's good. Mostly, if you're a statistician, our language was developed by statistics people. So it's very famous there. It's for statisticians. It was the best language until last year to do statistics. However, Python has been growing a lot in popularity. And now, first it's easier, it's more powerful because it's used in deep learning, it's used in robotics, it's used in many other areas. So many people know Python, and it's also been improving and copying things from R, like visualization, libraries. R was the number one, but now Python, it's almost as good as our language. Does that make sense? So because of that, use Python, not R, because it will be more useful for you in the future. Unless there's some specific reason, like you work in an office where they already use R and everybody uses R. It's also very good, but Python is newer and therefore it's better. And it's more, has a stronger community behind. So you can see the progression of Python users. Like old people like me are R people, and younger people, Python. And I love Python. But when I was doing stuff, R was more powerful, and for me visualization was important, so I chose R because R visualization was the ggplot library we saw the other day. I was like, what? The best. Yes? Sounds good? So that's the difference. What? What do I think it is?
No, I mean, what is group?
Oh, Slack, yeah. So, Jean Ping, I will invite you to Huan Yin Kuan Yi to Slack. So I will invite you, if I remember how to do it. Invite people. Did your friend
Aisha?
Aisha come? No, she was shy.
Yeah, sure.
Well, we'll send her the video. Put your email here so you'll get an invite. If you have UAE email,
Of course I have.
put that one because then it's automatic. And now we will see. I'm not sure we'll have time to do everything, but.
Do I need to put 3 times?
No.
No need, okay.
Oh yeah.
My name.
Well, we should do a quiz, no? You want to do
No,
a
without G.
too late. You can change the name.
Oh, of course. Okay.
Don't worry. I think we should do a quiz, no? Next week. 10-point quiz. I will send you sample quizzes. And you can propose questions you think they should be on the quiz. So that's also good.
So we are waiting in Slack for this.
You can also propose questions. Like, I think these questions could be good, and if you propose interesting questions to be on the quiz, I'll give you 1 bonus point and a chewing gum. How's that? You can also check quiz from the last year.
I just, the first time, Slack, I was looking with the guys there.
Do you like it?
Like they're sharing questions with you.
Yeah. You saw you check? Well, yeah, that was nice, right? That's good.
That's even I've read. seems like
all the startups and companies in the USA, they use Slack now for communication because it replaces WhatsApp, which is not professional, because you cannot search documents, and it's kind of a Dropbox, document management, private conversations, private channels. It has video call. Here is blocked, but it has video call also. So it has everything. It's Skype, WhatsApp, and Dropbox together. It's great. And email. So you reduce the number of emails you send, which is very bad for productivity. Does this make sense? Okay, cool. That's very good. Do you guys remember where we stopped with the Python notebook the other day?
yes. We start with
So go to a website called kaggle.com and make an account.
Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't come. I'm so disappointed. She wanted to learn.
Yeah, she know, but she wants to make new friends.
Oh, that's cute. Okay, good. Let's see. Where are we? You missed it. Who's that? No. Hey, I am in class. Our students went to the desert today. They went to once a year they go to the desert with the cars and they make a tent. So they invited me, but I'm here. So
Every week we have class here.
huh? Every week, yeah, at 5, yeah. And you're welcome to join every time. It's very good for us.
No, it's kind of deep thinking.
Oh, really? Okay, that's good. Okay. So can you pull up your kernels and activate your code? I'm trying to find my kernel here. Simple tutorial for beginners. Perfect.
Doctor, can you tell us the quiz will cover what exactly?
Everything we did in class. Mostly the data visualization part. So check the slides of data. Data.
Week 1 or
Week-
week both?
Both weeks.
Both weeks.
Yeah. So Python.
Descriptive and the predictive. Both.
Yes, just a bit. RFC modeling, and then Python notebooks. I will ask.
Python?
Yeah, what we're doing here, the Python notebooks. Yeah. So I will ask you some silly exercise. Very simple, like.
To be open book or?
It's not open book, but I will let you use the Python notebooks if you need to use them. But it's a problem to do open book exams. There was this theory that open books it's good, no? Because now you have the age of Google and so on. But there's a new trend in education that says it's not good for you. It's not good. So I will let you use the Python notebooks, but I will not let you use the notes. What you shouldn't worry about, because the exam is not about memorizing. I will not ask you who invented Python notebooks. or who founded Kaggle, but you should know what is Kaggle about, right? You can say that's memorizing or not memorizing. I don't think so. Yes. So nobody will fail because you didn't memorize a date or a year or something. But common sense questions, yes, like Monty Hall problem. Okay, good, right. So we were predicting stuff here. Yes. Data, code, 2 comments. Abdullah, are you going to use this knowledge in your job?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think I should do it.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
Actually, we are using Python for development.
Really? Let's see. Stack, describe, survive, group data, group IP class X. You okay? You good?
The version we go if you want to open Python notebook.
Kaggle.com?
Kaggle.
I mean, you can open a local copy of Python notebooks, but Kaggle is more convenient.
Otherwise, we need a couple of settings and other.
It's not super easy. You have to install a HTTP server, and I mean, you can follow instructions. Very easy. Should 5 minutes. It's nothing. So when in the internet's slow connection or your data is private, you use local. Yeah.
So it's better to have.
Definitely, it's better local. Working in local is better. Yeah. All right, cool. So, shall we recap? Everybody's here. Srikan is not here. Okay. Okay. So in this second part, we are going to talk about data visualization. Why is it important? And then we will continue practice with the Python notebooks. Okay. So I'm going to give you some tips about data visualization that will help you all your life, because it's what people see. Make sense? Very good. So this is
This one to the
no, you don't need to copy anything. This is no. You want this on Slack? Okay. Sure. Oh, of course. Yes. Here. Okay, you can open a new tab. Don't close your code tab. This one is done with R language. Great. So this is one of the kernels I did when I was recovering from my surgery at home. So I had free time and there was this competition. So it was about visualizing the 2018 Kaggle survey, which is a survey about all the data scientists in Kaggle. And they gave me a small prize. Yes. And a lot of people commented here, as you can see, lots of comments. And why is that? It's because the visualization was really interesting. So my kernel was very small, but the visualization was really good. So that's why people like it. So I'm gonna tell you some principles of visualization. Jumana, Aisha, yes? Delete? No, don't look at your screen now. Forget about it. So I want to tell you a few things. Number one is that when you have your data and you make your charts and all that stuff, people don't remember your chart. They remember stories. You have to tell a story. And then find the chart that supports your story. Your boss wants to tell a story that the school uses data to monitor and improve and blah, blah, blah to show off, let's say, hypothetically. So you have to start from that, not from the data. What story do you want to tell? Then we use data to identify students at risk of failing, and then we intervene and help them. And because of that, from last year to this year, less failures.
Yeah.
Now that you have the story, what chart could you use that best explains the story? Does that make sense? If you go to the internet, you will see lots of charts that are horrible, right? Like lots of people that don't know how to dress fashionably. But same with charts, but worse, because the people that make charts are engineers mostly, and they never teach them art history, aesthetics, and all that stuff, or color theory. Makes sense? If you go to Kaggle, you will see very, very incredible kernels, super complicated code, and the chart, the colors are horrible. Like, there is, or no story, or a chart, and why did you do this chart? What do you want to say? It's just descriptive, but it's not interesting. It's a waste of time. There's a term for that, it's called junk chart. Do you know it? Junk chart. Do you know what's a junk chart? You know what's junk?
Junk spam.
Something like that.
Alright.
It's a chart that first contains very little or no information. And second, it wastes a lot of your time.
So it's too information that you don't need.
A lot of blah, 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 blah. What do you want to say? Tell it. I just want to say, hey, so why do you spend all that time, blah, 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 and flashy colors and things and blah, 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 blah. Junk chart. And there are so many. Okay? Junk chart is your enemy. Have you heard about death by PowerPoint? Death by PowerPoint? Anybody? No? Have you ever seen a boring PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, sure.
And what are the reasons of boring PowerPoint presentations?
Just a slide.
A lot of information. Not summary.
Not summarized.
All words.
It's famous, it's on Wikipedia. You can find, there are books about it. There are books.
Books
Okay.
about death by PowerPoint?
Oh yes.
Really?
Yeah, look, there are books.
Okay, who is these terminologies and these expressions? Like, we've never heard of them.
Really?
يعني American or like what's the origin of?
Garth Reynolds. It's a guy from Japan. There are books about it.
He even wrote books.
Oh yeah, because it's horrible, it's criminal. people that don't know what they want to say and they make a PowerPoint presentation and waste time of an audience.
Yeah,
Like typical professor has to give a lecture, starts putting PowerPoints with blah 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 blah, right? Does it make sense? This is related to presentations. Many presentations are boring because there's no story behind or they don't know what they want to say and so on. Yes? The problem with charts is the same. I'm going to show you a little video because I realized that you didn't know that by PowerPoint. It's just a very small video. It's famous. 10, 20, 30 rule. Let's see this guy.
The seventh thing is you need to follow what I call the 10, 20, 30 rule. I have this thing called Meniere's disease. Meniere's disease has 3 symptoms. Hearing loss, tinnitus, which is a constant ringing in my ear, and sometimes I get dizzy or vertigo from this inner ear affliction. Medical science is trying to figure this disease out. They think it may be too much salt in your diet, too much retention, too much caffeine. That's why I don't drink too much Mountain Dew. Too much stress, allergies. It's a bunch of theoretical medical reasons. I've tried to cure it with all of these, controlling all those factors. I will tell you, though, I have another theory about what causes Meniere's disease. I am a venture capitalist. By definition, it means that I have to listen to pitches day in and day out. And day in and day out, entrepreneurs come to me and they pitch me, and they have 60 slides in a pitch. And in that 60 slides, they're convincing me that all they need is 1% of the market, that they have first mover advantage, that they have patents pending, that they have a unique, proven team with a proven technology in a proven market. Every one of them, whether it's for shrimp farming, fabless semiconductor, social networks, every one of them says that. And because I have to listen to such crap, I have a ringing in my head, I'm going deaf, and I get dizzy. So before there's an epidemic of Meniere's disease in the venture capital industry, I came up with the 10, 20, 30 rule. This is the 10, 20, 30 rule. You should have 10 slides in your PowerPoint pitch. 10, not 50. I don't care if you have curve jumping, paradigm shifting, P2P, Google, AdWords, social network, optimized, SQL-based way to sell dog food online. 10 slides. That's all we can handle. Those 10 slides you should be able to give in 20 minutes. You may have a 1-hour meeting, but you're using a Windows laptop. It's going to take you 40 minutes to make it work with the projector. Right? 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And the smallest font you should use is 30 points. You see 20, 14, and 12. You should use 30 points for 2 reasons. First, the kind of people you're pitching to looks like that. The second reason is by having a 30-point font, you can put a lot less text. This forces you to actually know your presentation and just put the core of the text on your slide. If you need to put 8 points or 10 points fonts up there, it's because you don't know your material. If you start reading your material because you don't know your material, the audience is very quickly going to figure out that you are a bozo. They're going to say to themselves, this bozo is reading his slides. I can read faster than this bozo can speak. I will just read ahead. If you don't buy that 30 points is the right font size, I will give you an algorithm. Give you an algorithm. Find out who the oldest person is in the audience, divide his or her age by 2. That's your optimal font size. Okay? Unless you're pitching to 16-year-olds, don't use the 8-point font. The 8th thing is to hire infected people.
Okay, good. Well, but it's basically talking about the death by PowerPoint. Good. So the same with charts. So
Back to storytelling.
and so why is this happening? It's because, well, first, many people that make charts, data scientists, they never got education on how to explain something, or artistic or aesthetics. The other problem is that Excel, the default settings are a disgrace. the colors, the default colors, and then the default axis, the default fonts, all this is terrible also. And the same goes for numbers in Apple. And the same goes for ggplot. A bit less problem there, but still, if you want the chart not to be in the way between your story and the audience, you need to style it and spend some time changing a few things, and that takes time, and it's so hard to change from the default settings. That's another reason. This makes sense. So that's one of the reasons. Good. So I'm gonna give you now a few tips on how to visualize information, and we will use this fantastic kernel here by me. I did this because I saw the charts that people were doing and they were horrible. And so the first thing people visualized here was the gender of the surveyors. So most of the responders are male in this website because it's a data science website. So what they put is the pie chart, and they put man, woman, then, or they put the pie chart and woman, man. Oh. Yes? Well, yeah, it's nice, but much better to you. Woman, man, right? Less clutter, yes. And much better to say woman, man, white. Yeah, because things at the top look fine, right? And women are kind of oppressed. So if you want to convey the message that, hey, this is kind of wrong, right? It looks like women are at the top, but no, it's not the message that you want to convey. But subliminally, oh, they're on the top, it's fine. Get it? Humans are very bad at charts. The other one is that if you put it here and you want to say, hey, gender equality is here. You put here and say gender equality, and you put an arrow, and you can say, oh, this is all the role we need to do to achieve gender equality against the force of gravity, and then your chart becomes much more easy to understand. You get it? The chart should be invisible. Nobody should notice it. You just see it, you get the message, you forget about it. That's a good chart. But if I have to read, look at this. Man, women, you have to go here. What's that? Wasting my life.
Yeah, but Dr. At the end you told us to avoid pie charts in all, at all, yeah? Like fuse bar and other things to avoid pie charts.
Yes, I agree with you. Totally. There's only one exception to that. But yes, one situation only when you want to use pie charts. Make sense? So people were doing pie charts, blah, blah, so this is so boring. So I visualize it like that, which is much better.
Oh. 1 woman every 5.
Is this a bit better? And why is this better? It's because I use color, right? And then you use the superhero themes. That's called persona. Because this topic is very controversial. So you want to make it less heavy and more friendly and like less threatening and to talk about it, right? And this chart is basically this chart, right? Which is much easier to understand than a pie chart like that. Yes? So that's one example where most people will make a pie chart. So don't do a pie chart in this situation, it's not the best case. Yes? And so people will say, oh, but it's not 1 in 5, it's 1.2 in 5. It doesn't matter 1.2 in 5 or 1. That means that's not the point. The point is, it's not gender equality yet. That's it. It doesn't matter. That's not the story. The story is not 2.7%. That's not important. You don't need 22.551. No, it's not important. Does it make sense? Unless it's important, but I don't think it's important. That's not the story you want to tell, right? So you want to tell the story that, oh, superhero, oh, this. Good. Another example, many people plotted charts about the age of the respondents, right? So one way to do it, again, because pie chart. Everybody pie chart. So what do they do? 18 to 21. What else? 22 to 24. Now we have 30 to 34. What is this? This is a chunk chart. Chunk chart. What's the message? What's the story? What do you want to say? What do you want to say with the age? Other people will plot it like this. See.
It depends on if we have more variables, then it is faster.
Correct.
If we have two, then it's several variables.
If you have more than 3, pie chart, absolutely not. Even I should never use pie chart, except in one case I will show you later. Here, people visualize it like that, and I say, but what do you want to tell me about? What's the point of visualizing age? That there is less old people? Yeah, we know that. So what's the point? So what first thing that we did here was, instead of the ages here in numbers, which is really cluttery, and you cannot relate to age. You can relate though to generations, right? Are you familiar with Generation X, millennials and all stuff?
Yeah.
People relate to that much more, and then you reduce the number of clusters. Do you know there's this rule that humans cannot handle more than 7 chunks of information at the same time in the brain?
I think I've heard of it.
That's the reason why there are 7 colors and not 20 colors, because most humans can only handle 5 to 9. So if you're making a chart with more than 9 clusters, you don't understand what you do. Nobody can make sense of it, even by looking at it. Does it make sense? Because most humans cannot handle more than 7 pieces of information in the brain at the same time. Make sense? So what we did here is we reduced the clusters. We had how many clusters here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Too much, and really into Generation Z, Y, baby boomers, and Gen X. Yes? And that's much more interesting because, oh, I'm Gen X. To see how many of my people are familiar with it, and then they're immediately interested in it. Does this make sense? But that's not enough. What's the story? What do you want to say? So I wanted to say that Gen X, which is my generation, we are better than the other ones. Ha ha ha.
It's 10 mark 9.
Give her one candy. Good job, Aisha. Oh my God, it's true. Very good. So I look at who got more money awards, and I found out by person, per capita, Gen X, which is older people, earn more money in this competition than younger people. And of course, Gen X love it. It's like, yes, I love that chart. So that's the story here in this chart. And it's very clear because the top gross income for Gen X, and it's use the blue color for emphasis. And by the way, many charts here, they use pink, yellow, red, gray, random colors for random ages. They say, okay, I understand if you use, so you have to be careful with the colors, right? They have meaning, right? And okay. Another interesting trick in this chart is that we put generation, and here it's not. Gen X is here, right? So I first like, whoa, where's the information? Ah, it's here. So make sure people will not miss it. People that are robots. So that's called negative space. This thing. Got it? So that's much better. There's a story, useful, easy to see, no use of aggressive colors or color without meaning. That's it. Would you use black color instead of gray here? Why not?
It's for dyes. It's for dyes.
When you have, here I use black color, okay? Because it's very small and it's good for contrast. But if you have a big area, you have to be careful using very solid colors because it's strong. Question, Aisha? One of the most important charts here. Don't watch at this yet, watch here. There was information about salaries. So people were asked how much salary they got. So typically, a lot of people, because there's people from everywhere in the world, some people get between 0 and 10K dollars, India, Africa, from 10 to 20, and some people get $500,000 as salary. Yes, okay. Some CEOs play to these games also, right? And most people plotted this information as a histogram, right? This is the percentage of people, or the number of people, 200 people. Very, no story here. What's the story? What's the story? What do you want to say? Oh, there's a lot of people that have low salary, and there's a lot of people in the middle, and there's a lot of people that earn big salary, and small people. Boring. What would be more interesting?
If we add comments.
If you have what?
Comments. If we add some comments.
Very good. So the first thing, to flip the chart. Flip. So instead of this, you flip. And what do we have here? The richest people at the top.
Very few.
Does this make more sense? Are the richest people usually at the left and the... No. Are you familiar with the pyramid structure, right?
Pyramid.
Yeah, pyramid.
The boss at the top, or the most important, or the whatever at the top, and...
The workers are down.
Or, yeah. This is a pyramid. Top
Oh, okay.
half of it. If you plot it like this, what you're doing is putting a pyramid like this, which is a very weird way to look at the pyramid. And that's right? Yeah. And that's why this chart is so noisy and confusing. No, that's the way to look. And now you look at the pyramid and say, oh yeah, the rich people at the top and very small. And then you can annotate. And what's interesting is to relate it to information about the general population and compare, right? So here we use the 1% because it's famous. Are you familiar with that? The 1%? Who knows about this? 1%.
1%.
Who is the 1%? No? So you can you explain to us?
In general, there is saying about the 1% of the income, or in general, like are you the 1%? You have to do this to be.
And the majority.
No, 1% is the least, like the top.
Yeah, the majority.
Must be.
1% is an entry on Wikipedia. When there was the financial crisis in 2008,
Yes.
the 1% is the people that belong to the 1% in the pyramid. The 1% own more than 60% of the wealth in the earth
Yes.
and stuff like that. So when there was the financial crisis where the governments gave money to the banks, which are owned by the 1% people, the other people said, the 99% said, what is this? Giving even more money to the, already they have enough money, why more? So there's a lot of backlash against this. So I thought it would be interesting and controversial to compare the 1% in this website to the 1% in society. So in the US, if you want to be part of the 1%, you need to earn $422,000 per year in the US. Are you 1% in the US? What about yours? You are?
Yeah, so I know.
Inshallah, you answer. So this is the pyramid of Kaggle. So is this 1% of this? Maybe not. But it doesn't matter. 10% is a more reliable measure. So 170K is the salary you need to belong to the 10% in the US. In this website, this is here, and this is 6% of all the website. It's kind of similar, so you can say, oh, it's a similar social, it's kind of similar, yes? And what about here? 60% of the respondents belong to the global 1%. The 1% salary for global, because India, Africa, and all that stuff, is $32,000 per year. Are you part of the 1% privileged class globally? Up to what? Do you earn more than $32,000 a year? And you? Maybe soon. And you?
I think I'm getting.
You totally, all of you, and you probably also, all of you are part of the 1% globally. So I want to say, how does this compare to the people in Kaggle? Oh wow, okay, so 60%, so people at Kaggle, yeah, okay, there are no poor people in Kaggle, so that's why. So that chart is interesting, but the reason people like this chart is because they plot like a pyramid. And that's why people like it, but they don't know why they like it.
Easier to understand.
So
Quicker to understand.
Yes, but why? It's because the pyramid.
Ah.
Because rich people at the top, yes?
You even included faces, I mean the emojis also.
Yeah, because it's so complicated, these salary things,
You're trying to make it really as a story.
that I don't want to waste people's time. So I want to tell them, look, this is good,
And this is
because it means it's inclusive, because we have people from all similar to society, which means the website reflects society. It's good. But global in the US, but global is not good. It means it's not inclusive. It means poor people don't have access to this website, which is good or bad, I don't know, but usually it's bad. So I put it so it's faster, you can understand faster what's going on.
From where did you brought this concept?
First, the story. You want to say, I want to talk about inclusion, income and inclusion, and poor people. And the way to do it is with salaries, because it's a salary chart. So the 1%, do you belong to the 1%? That's the story. Another interesting thing I would say, to make a good chart, it's not enough to be good with Python. Right? You need to know about the world you live in, because you need to relate the data to the world. That's another thing people forget. Okay, so this chart, economists love it. This chart. Another table we had is the most used framework. So there were like 50 frameworks library, stuff like that. And they all do what? They do a pie chart with 30, 40 categories. You cannot see anything. And there's 3 big ones. Great. And then 1,000 labels here. Blah, 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 blah. Great. Or worse, a bar chart. And then 1,000 that you cannot even see it. So where do you put them? You cannot even see it. Terrible. Summarizing data is important also. Like understanding that you don't need to show everything. You just need to show the thing most important. This chart is called House of Shiva. It's a chart you want to use when it's a Greek temple. You see the Greek temple? So it's a chart when you want to say if one of the columns is not there, it will collapse. So good school, you need good professors, good students, and good material, no? Something like that. How much are we spending on each one? So you can use that. It's a good story. Another example, this one. The growth of the website. Which countries does it come from in users? So what people do is, there's 192 countries. What do they do? Bar chart. This country, these new users. This country, these new users. Okay, so they have 192. The lines with so many colors, different colors, and you cannot even see them. Remember, we said 9 things is the maximum you can remember. Do you really need to know that Thailand, 50 new people, and Cambodia 3? No, you just need to know from Asia this much, and from India this much. So grouping countries in regions is a good idea. And the last one, my favorite. This is called a scatter plot. So you have the countries, and you have how many people in that country. Here. Typical way to visualize this information. US, number 1, India, number 2, Germany, number 3, 192 countries. Number of users. Boring. What you want to do is normalize by the population. See, there's a lot of data scientists per 1,000 people. Have you heard about the doctors per 10,000 people? It's a measure of development of a country. So they go to a country in Africa and say, oh, there's 3 doctors per 10,000 people. In Europe, we have 12 doctors per 10,000 people. In America, they have 8. So that tells you how the country, they need more doctors, they need more teachers. So per 10,000. So I thought, oh, we could do the same for data scientists. And because it's related to innovation, here, density of data scientists per 10,000 people, and here you put the innovation index of the thing they compile every year. And you plot. And what do you get? Oh, surprise, surprise. The more density of data scientists, the more the innovation. Right? That's super interesting. And this is one of my favorite charts to think about policy and what to do with a country. Because it's the same chart. You can see, wow, look at this country, Japan. Very high in innovation. So, by the way, this is the average, the regression line. Very high in innovation, very low, no? Because it should, Japan, if it was like Germany or Canada, look at Canada, has the same innovation as Japan, but it has much more data scientists. What does this mean? Japan has low data scientists. It's high in innovation because maybe it comes from the past, but they're not doing new things, right? So you may say, oh, wow, what's going to happen with Japan? There's this theorem called mean reversion, that all the countries, if there's a mean, they tend to go back to the mean. So it's much more probable that the UK will move towards here than towards here. Do you agree? It's more probable that Brazil will move towards here than towards here, right? It's more probable that Nigeria will increase its number of data scientists and increase its innovation than go down. Yes?
Yes.
So you can see it's very probable that Japan will decrease its innovation position and increase slightly in its number of data scientists. So you can predict what will happen. So you can say, wow, interesting. Anyway, the correlation is very high. It's like 60%, 65%, super high. So it's like, wow. Or you can think, this is a predictor of the future innovation. So you could say, oh, Brazil next year, because it has data scientists, it will go more up. Or Australia, it will jump. Or these countries will go up like this, and these ones will go. You get it? Whatever model or theory you develop, you can develop it with data from various years and see what happens and how the dots move. And then you can do a policy like, we want more data scientists because look, do you know what's the #1 country in the world? Number of data scientists is, which one? Singapore. So I plotted in red. Makes sense? And that's not junk chart. Like you watch it, immediately you see Singapore. Oh, the story is Singapore is #1. It's famous for innovation. Yes, great. Much higher than anybody else. Does that make sense? UAE is not here because there's not enough users. Questions?
Looking at the other chart.
The X scattered, yes.
So that's why Singapore is at the very most right, because it's the largest. After it's like
3. So there are 0.3.
more than 0.3.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. 0.3 data scientists per 10,000 people.
Okay.
So if you want to marry data scientists, you should go to.
Singapore. Deal.
Very good. What's the question?
That was because that Singapore is way. It's not in the crowded area here. It's not in the crowded area. So that because it's higher than them, it's far higher than them. And here is the crowded area or the shaded area, let's say.
Yes.
Shaded area of the close members to each other.
For now, yes, it has more than that, but if we can see the curve is going up and Singapore is there, so what will happen?
First, yes. I don't know. It's just a very simple model. I don't know what. Singapore is what we call an outlier. Are you familiar with that name?
Outlier, yeah.
It means it's a very small country, very special conditions. You cannot really compare. It's like a small city in China. You cannot really compare it. If you put Beijing, it's 20 times bigger than Singapore. If you put Beijing here, they're probably similar. But it's an outlier. And
So it's not in the comparison
Yeah.
itself. It's not,
no,
it's
but
not
it can help you tell a story. If you want to tell the story like relationship with data scientists, numbers, and innovation, Singapore is great for you. Right?
Temporary.
But you can see like the cool countries have high data scientist rates, yeah? And you can, for example, see Russia, for example. Russia is here. Right? Russia. You can say, apply this theorem of mean reversion. You can say it's very hard for Russia to go back in number of data scientists. Once you have data scientists, Probably good. Russia will go up in the few next years. Germany will go down. Yes?
So, based on, you created this shade based on how many dots do you have? I mean, how
The shade-
the closest numbers of
Yeah.
countries together on the same area. That's why you shaded this area only, not more, not less.
Okay, so these are regression, which is, remember what we did before with the line? It's the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
It minimizes the square of the distance of all the dots to the line, the square. It's just a way to do it. You could do another one, but this is a typical because it's a simple model. This is the 95% confidence level. It means if there were much more dots here, 95% of the dots would be inside the gray line.
Yeah.
The gray line is to put a soft area. To say it's not so important if you're not on the line. Just to say, look, it's just that, around here. It's just to soften that. I don't want to give the impression that if you're not in the line, you're wrong, which happens if you take the shape out. Does that make sense?
And it gives an impression that it will raise, it will grow. Even if you're not on the line, but you are in the shaded area, so you will be in the line or you will go up beyond the line.
It's a soft goal, and it's just about the reversion to the mean.
Okay. So let's say for every set of data, there is a best way of representation.
Definitely, always, but not the best data. For every story.
For every story. Because I was thinking if for data scientists, you choose to draw a character for someone wearing glasses and putting a computer like the man and the woman one, that will not be okay because how many countries do we have here? So I think it will not be practical.
I am going to show you. This is another guy on the competition, and look at all the charts he made. Wow.
There is an error.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Look at all these charts. Look at the way that he uses colors.
Yeah.
But why did you use purple here? Like, why? Right? It's just price, so it means, or, you know what I mean? He's a genius in data science, but he has no knowledge about color theory or how to use it. And so at the end, you end up with clutter and no story.
I don't see the point.
You need to spend 5 minutes.
Thinking.
What? And that's not the point of a chart. If you're going to make a chart and it takes longer than reading it,
So it's better I go and read it.
and that's exactly the same as death by power. It's exactly the same. But even worse because this guy really spent a lot of time doing this stuff.
So maybe there should be a cooperation between a designer and a data scientist.
Yes, the problem is, we're going to finish in 5 minutes. The problem is that they don't teach art here because they don't respect art, they don't understand it. And in the art school, they don't teach data science.
Exactly, that's why I say it should be a teamwork.
Yeah, like an infographic.
There is an.
Based on the graphic designer, not the data graphic.
This is another example. Very cool chart, but so complex, it's hard to understand the meaning because poor use of colors. Maybe he should put everything in gray and visualize one story, one line. But he didn't do that because maybe he doesn't have a story for it.
Yeah. And Doctor, does it affect also the audience? Does it affect also? Is it a factor that to whom I'm going to show my?
For colors, for example, I didn't know that, but depending on the culture, each color has a different meaning. So if I put red or pink and I think I'm fine, I'm not fine. I mean something else. for example, purple color in Europe means feminism a lot. So I didn't use purple in the women chart, the superhero chart. It might be appropriate, but it was too political because it became a bit political,
Yeah,
and
so
that
it's
was
like-
not the point of the chart. So you have to be super careful with the color and
We have to go the same one.
all that stuff. Make sense? Right. The last thing I want to tell, pie charts. The only situation where you are going to use pie charts is when you want to emphasize change. Change. Do you have a car?
Yeah.
So when you're driving, you have here two things, right? The speed gauge. It's a needle, right? That's a pie chart, basically.
Yeah.
And what's good about the needle? It changes a bit, you notice immediately,
Fine, yeah.
The rules.
right? Whereas if you put a bar chart here, not,
Up,
not,
down, up, down.
you
But no, it's
you see the change, but you don't. The orientation, we're super sensitive to the orientation, and that's what makes pie charts really bad, because I shift this 1 millimeter and your brain goes crazy. So you cannot work with this chart because you cannot touch it or move it. But if your point is to emphasize change, like speed or something, use an needle. Does it make sense? And that's why in the cars, you don't have bar chart for the speed. You have needles. And by the way, in the 60s and the 70s, Toyota and these companies, Renault, they would make dashboards. This is called a dashboard. And some dashboards were digital with numbers because they thought it was cool. And then they stopped and went back to needles because it created more accidents. Because it takes 0.2 seconds more time to understand the speed
as written as like
in numbers than in needle.
than the
And that's why, and they measure this, like it takes more time to understand the speed and react, and it creates more accidents. It kills people basically, and they stop. And you will not see any car today with numbers for the speed. Make sense? So, summary of the class: bad design kills, bad presentations are bad for your career, and bad charts are bad for your career. You can be a great data scientist, but if you don't know how to explain or how to tell a story, and people only care about stories. But some people don't understand that. They start with the data. No, start with the story, and then
convey
make.
the message.
If the chart is good, it will not be between you and the story. You will forget about the style of the chart. If the style is not good, you will start thinking about why is this color here, why is this color here, right? If you will not think about the colors of the style, and that's a good sign that the chart is good. Does it make sense? Questions? Next week quiz, I will ask some questions about Python notebooks, prescriptive analytics, descriptive analytics.
Can you show us one more time where is Python notebooks? Is it the same thing with this environment?
So the link that we
Kaggle,
practiced
Kaggle.
last time,
Kaggle
the
is-
Titanic issue, the Titanic one,
Titanic.
The Titanic, yeah. Can you maybe practice a bit the Titanic a bit more? So I will ask you, how do you load Titanic?
We code,
I will ask you, how do you load in Python
for example, inputs
Excel file? Yeah. What's the command?
Again.
Command.
to read the data set.
How do you read the data
The
set
text.
to memory?
Should code one.
Does it make sense? Very simple stuff.
yeah, basically, but related to Titanic. Like
For
because
that,
if you want to go through Python, like it's an ocean.
No,
Yeah,
no,
some
no.
text
Very
file.
simple stuff.
Simple stuff. And the two week 1, week 2, we go through them and please on.
Questions?
Plus? Plus?
Yes, very good. Khadija?
Okay, remember the papers you gave us in our studio?
Yes.
Are we going to work on this or it's just
No,
a-
that just
That's-
was.
that's-
This is type of chart. You should know them, right? Density plot, histogram. You will have to know them at the end of the course. Questions?
How long will be a test?
Well, the test
This
is
is nothing.
is designed for 20 minutes, but usually people get. It's a quiz, but people get very excited and they want to go on for 1 hour sometimes. They say, okay, fine, but
1 hour out of excitement is out of
Open book, please. Show 1 hour excitement.
yes.
Yes,
Hakuna
open book,
Matata.
yeah.
Hakuna Matata.
No open books. But you can use the notebook in your laptop to code. That's it. That's all the open books. In theory, you could save your notes as a data set and load it.
So how can what is the output?
What?
Make the Python 3D generated, no?
I will not go deep.
If we
We
only
don't
yeah,
have to know
no,
the
no,
Python.
Doctor said if we only follow Titanic example, that's enough.
That's it. That's it. That's
For
what
example, what is the size of the data set?
I might ask you. I will send an example quiz.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't worry. It's fine. I'll see you in Slack. Send me your map address of your shop.
Okay.
Any other question? You also have to do the quiz. No, I'm kidding. So you can do the quiz also. It's good as a reference point. Questions? So today we didn't see chatbots, so we'll see a bit next day. And women, yeah. Other questions? No.
We'll be in touch by Slack if there's any questions.
Wonderful.